Don't touch it. Alright, Dan, we're going to start. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. I want to thank you all for coming out. I want to thank the library, the new library director, Melissa Depew, and the staff of the library for hosting us tonight. I'm Jim Safranco, and I am the town supervisor, and I want to tell you that I am truly honored to serve you. It's a beautiful town. We have great people in the town, and it's a pleasure. It's really rewarding when things work out. The day-to-day, you might hear me complain a little bit, but it is very rewarding to be able to do things for your town and your neighbors, and to try to make it a good community. That's all I'm trying to do. And I have a great board, and Vicki Reed is here tonight to help me out in case I stumble and say the wrong thing, so she can correct me. So I also serve as the director on the Catskill Watershed Corporation that does a lot of work in the town, and I am also newly appointed on the executive council of the Shokan Watershed Stream Management Program. And both of those programs do a tremendous amount of work for stormwater stormwater projects, septic projects, wastewater projects in the town. So we're very fortunate to have those organizations that can work with us and help implement the programs that New York City is required to do for us being a watershed town. So here we are. It's the 2024 State of the Town Address. And I'll start off with I've got a lot of things to say, and a bunch of pages, a lot of words. And what I'd like to do is get through it, and then we'll take questions and answers. And there is material on the table here. I hope there's enough left that might help you out on some things. So the first thing I want to talk about is the town is working on a comprehensive plan. We started that in 2021, and we applied for grant funding. We were denied the funding, and then we decided to split the plan into a phase 1 and a phase 2 and pay for the phase 1 aspect of it, which included a townwide survey. Phase 1 is, we identified as, let's get all the documentation of mapping and start working like that, and let's find a survey. We formed a committee of local residents and business owners, and we had the survey completed in 2022, and we came to some conclusions that helped us get to the second round of grants from the New York State Smart Growth Grant Program, which is a Department of State program, and that we were awarded. We did win that. So now we just got that grant. It took over a year to actually get it once it was awarded to us, and we just got that in January, and now we're starting on the phase 2 of the comprehensive plan, which is basically a lot more community input, a lot more determination of how we want this plan to look. It is the first time the town is doing a comprehensive plan. And for those that don't know, a comprehensive plan is a document that you produce that's kind of like a snapshot of the town, and it kind of has a little history, like where we've been, where we got to, where we are today, and a lot of community input to recommend where we want to go in the future. And it's a document that's used by the town board, zoning board, the planning board, to kind of guide us in our decision making in the future. It's a very important document, and I'm really happy that we're moving along with that. That should be completed at the end of this year. We will be going out to different hamlets to do more outreach to find out what the hamlets like about their hamlets and what they'd like to see developed or not in their hamlets. They meet monthly. The meetings are open to the public, and they're published on the calendar and the town website, and will be done hopefully by the end of 2024. Otherwise we run out of money and we have to start again. So the next thing we've been doing, we've had a major subdivision moratorium for the last over a year now. It is just been extended by the town board to August 2024. And we created this moratorium so that we could look at major subdivisions and whether we wanted to address them because of the overwhelming demand on land use in the town since the pandemic. I don't know if any of you noticed, but there's a lot more stuff going on and a lot new people in the town. And we welcome them, but we do not want to have developers develop the town. We want the town to control the development in the town. So we put a hold on that. We have a zoning committee that's been looking at that. They got input from a housing committee, the Olive Conservation Advisory Council, and the Boyceville Committee to make advisory recommendations to the zoning board. And the zoning board has a draft of that. We just sent it to our attorney, and the attorney is reviewing that, and that will go out to the public as soon as I get that review for public hearings and meetings and outreach to the community and input from the community. What we're looking at in that code in general is it will permit what's called conservation subdivisions, which are kind of like the ability for a developer to cluster the homes on less acreage than would be in a normal lot in that area for what it's zoned, but it would keep open space open in that. It's an old concept that we're rehashing here. Zoning and housing. In 2023, we formed a housing committee to research and make advisory opinions to the town board. In 2023, we qualified take part in the Ulster County Housing Smart Communities Initiative. That is a grant that we won and we qualified for because of past efforts we've done in the town to address housing. And this will help us rewrite our zoning code to have more inclusionary housing and zoning to be able to look at the zoning in the town and say, where do we want increased density for housing, and where do we want to preserve the town for the rural character of the town? Those are two things that came out of the comprehensive plan that we feel pretty comfortable moving forward with. Where am I? So that consultant hasn't started yet. We haven't got the actual contract in hand, but that should be coming up soon, and they will work with the town board, the zoning committee, and all the other agencies to try to figure out what we can do here, and then bring it out to the public for input. Boyceville planning. We received what was that, last year, an $18,000 grant from the Ashokian Watershed Stream Management Program to develop the stream side riparian buffer on the Stuckey property in Boyceville, next to the market, along the stream. And we're working on that now. We have a landscape designer that we hired who is looking at the property, identifying all the plants on it, identifying the invasives, which there's a lot, and trees that might be hazardous or deadly, and we want to get out of the way, hazardous trees, so that we can eventually have public access to that stream side, and along with that lot that has an open field on it. We'll be determining that with the Boyceville Planning Committee, because we have another grant that we were just awarded that is a $290,000 grant from the National Fish and Wildlife Fund to assess that property and plan for a 60% design of those properties that are acquired in Boyceville from the flood buyout program. And if anybody wants to know about the flood buyout program and has an hour, I can tell you about it later. But the town allowed certain properties in the floodplain in Boyceville that were identified in a local flood analysis in 2017. They've allowed these properties to sell to New York City in a program that requires the town wanting them to do it, the property owner willing to do it, and the city wanting to do it. Most of these properties that we had, I have letters in from Sylvia Roselle, the former supervisor, of letters of people begging us to allow them to participate in this because they were going bankrupt. And they couldn't sell the properties, they couldn't afford the flood insurance, and the properties were starting to break down. And we didn't want to have a town center with zombie properties. So that's how that goes. There are a lot of them in process, but this grant that we have is for to hire consultants who are looking at these properties, assessing them, and planning, again, many community outreach programs meetings to get ideas, get more ideas, and then come up with a design plan for these. In addition to that, I'm working with DEC and DEP. DEC has a lot of oversight on those properties because they're stream side, especially the DEP property that runs up to where the bridge is. And we hope to be able to get them to fund maybe putting a walkway path through there with stream side acquisition as well, and integrate their property into ours with this kind of newly designed Boyceville with the new bridge, the new intersection. You saw a sidewalk there from DOT, so that it is a nice place that we can be proud of in our town. Otherwise, you buy these things, if you don't do anything with them, I can tell you from experience, you just look at the New York City properties that they took in the buyout. In the buyout process, the town can take the property or ask the city to take it. It's the town's decision. Some of them we decided not to take because they were a little more wet than others, and those properties are now just filled with knotweed, just filled with invasives. I didn't think that's what I saw as the future for Boyceville, to have just a big knotweed farm there. So we're looking at that on how to make that for public recreation use. There's a lot of stakeholders involved, and there is a lot of in-depth analysis that needs to be done because we have to work with DEP, DEC, New York State DOT, the Ontario Central School District, Ulster County, the Ashokan Stream Management Program, Trout Unlimited, the town, and the list goes on of who we have to go through to be able to come up with a plan that works for everyone in terms of regulatory process and things like that. Let me take a drink of water, I'm talking really fast.
You're doing great, Jimmy.
I'm hoping there's food here. They said there was gonna be food. I don't see it yet. I was hoping that would get me to the end. A little bit, I'm gonna touch on the Ashokan Sewer District. That's been in process for the last several years. That will be the largest sewer district west of the Hudson in the New York City watershed in Ashokan. It has about 450 to 500 properties on it, and we started working on that. We had a public referendum that passed, and we were working on getting those properties and mapping and design in place. There were 145 individual easements that had to be addressed. We have about 30 left, and so we're slowly working toward that process of being able to start actually getting some construction done on that, but it's a very long process because one little hiccup can delay it for a year. That process, that budget for that started out several years ago at $48 million, and on the board of the CWC, we're talking about reassessing what it's actually gonna cost since COVID, and we're talking about probably $70 million or more. Parks and Recreation, on to the good stuff. The Pete Tosi Pool at Davis Park, that operates seasonally, and this is a little more just informational stuff. Very popular. We have one of our famous swimmers over here, Kate McLaughlin and Sarah.
She has become almost as good.
During the last years or two, we've expanded the water exercise program for the adults. We continue with the swim lessons for all ages. The pool is closed to the public during the summer day camp hours. We have the summer day camp program, very popular. It's 6 weeks for younger residents aged up to age 14. We hire 20 counselors seasonally, and we provide busing. And they just raised it, I think, $10. I think it's $75 for the 6 weeks. So we like to keep that affordable. I think it's a really good program. A lot of the young counselors, it's their first job, so we get them a little experience on getting out there and working in the world. That's always fun. Try to keep them off these things, you know. We also have an annual music concert at the park in Davis Park in West Ashokan by the Renaissance Youth Group. It's a music with a message, it's called, and they come up from, I think it's Harlem, I think, or the Bronx, and do a performance annually. If you haven't gone to that, it's a great show. I mean, this is not for nothing. This is like amazing, these kids. And I get to see these kids every year and how they develop and how they get better. And it's a really amazing program to be involved with. We also have summer Little League, soccer, football, with some outside organizations that use our fields. We have adult softball in the summer, and we have a winter program for adult and youth basketball and volleyball. The town sponsors adult art classes on Mondays from 10 to 12 at the American Legion Hall in Shokan. That American Legion Hall was kind of an underutilized building, and I was just able to make a deal with Margaretville Telephone Company, ran a fiber line down the 28 corridor, and they needed a switching station. And last year, or 2 years ago, we allowed them to put in a easement for a little piece of property behind our town hall for a switching station. And in that, we got free fiber internet at the Ashokan, at the American Legion, at the town hall, at the Olive First Aid, which is a block or two off the 28 corridor, and the 2 firehouses on the corridor.
Nice job.
All for free, and we got, and better yet, we got a backup generator for our town hall and police station. Which we've never had. I've been in that thing where I've gone on, and I get a call from one of our justices saying, we're having court tonight, there's no power. Where are those rechargeable lanterns? You know? So that kind of, it's really nice to have that. Also, our parks, a lot of people don't know, but our parks have tennis courts, pickleball courts. Where's Scott? There he is, okay, thank you.
Free lessons.
Pavilions, free lessons, baseball, soccer fields, horseshoe pits, playground equipment, and seasonal restrooms. So we're very proud of it. When I talk to other supervisors and other people in the county, they think that our park system and our recreation system program for kids is one of the best in the county, if not the best, because it's affordable, and it's available, and it's for all different ages. Highway Department, Superintendent Brian Burns, he runs a great department, really efficient. They do annual road paving projects, bridge and culvert installations, funded with those awarded grants from the Shokan Watershed Stream Management and the CWC. They do the seasonal snow plowing and stormwater ditch clearing and the seasonal mowing. We're also in the process of replacing a large, what we call a cold storage garage in the West Shokan facility. It's the building way in the back. It's a metal building and it's falling down. It's falling down because it's, I don't know how many years, it's 20-some years old, and it's got a lot of salt from the trucks they park in there in the wintertime. So we are right now, we put an ad out to have that building taken down in the next 2 months, and we have a bid out to reconstruct that, and we're gonna go to a small bonding for that. The town is putting in about 300 and some thousand from our ARPA money for that, 800,000 in reserves, and we're probably gonna have to bond another million, maybe, I don't know. But we did put in our budget for this coming year to finance that bond if we do get it in this year. That project should be bid out and completed by the end of this year. That's the plan. And by doing that, there's a reason for that, just aside from the fact that it's necessary. It will be expanded somewhat, because in our town office, we have a new outside to the town, new roof and a new outside facade, but the inside looks like it was from 1955, and all the carpets are stained and worn, and we haven't put money in it because we eventually one day want to renovate it. So we have to get, there's a garage in that building that the highway department stores about 3 vehicles in, and we need to get that garage, those vehicles out of there into this new garage so that we can then go after funding for the town office. Other trend. Wish they had a little cup on there.
Every time he drinks, we should clap for him.
Thank you. Olive Conservation Advisory Council has played a big role in the town. They are an appointed advisory council, and they research environmental issues in the town and make advisory recommendations to the board. Through their efforts, the town received bronze status in the NYSERDA, which is the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, as a climate smart community. So we're finally made that. We are a climate smart community, and through their efforts. And that was done by meeting benchmarks that they required to get to that, which was a lot. And they achieved these benchmarks and documented them, and they included things like public education, solar and energy education programs, the mapping of conservation environmental areas in the town, greenhouse gas inventories of the town, and creating a natural resource inventory for the town, which we've never had, which again helps the planning board and to decide when the property is, as well as a critical environmental area, to decide where development should happen or not. So that's a really big thing for them and a big thing for the town. I really applaud the efforts of those. They also worked with Hudsonia to identify, through a grant, to identify and map critical environmental areas in the town that were adopted by the town board last year. The CEAs allow the town planning board to make better informed land use decisions in these areas. The OCAC registered as an intervener in the recent ongoing Central Hudson rate case that's before the Public Service Commission right now. In fact, one of the members testified last week up in Albany. We challenged their rate case increase, which I believe for electric, don't quote me on this, on camera, 18%, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
And two things that we challenged it on is that Central Hudson continues to advertise and promote the use of natural gas, which is in direct conflict with the New York State Climate Act. That was with a goal of reducing New York State emissions by 40% in 2030, and the residents and the town billing issues. They have a billing case that was prior to this rate increase that hasn't been resolved yet. So before it's resolved, they want a rate increase, I guess. And so we looked at our town bills and we presented them to them. And I gotta tell you, it's really difficult because you look at a bill and you say, okay, I get this, I'm gonna pay it. I'm responsible for the taxpayers here, and I have to feel a great responsibility if I'm signing a check. And I look at these bills and they are indecipherable, and I just kind of, and so I go, our challenge on this is get your billing together before you want an increase. We don't understand this billing. We got the reply from our questions that we asked them, and even their answer was indecipherable, and you couldn't make sense of what they're talking about. So I guess that's just who they are. So we've been before the Public Service Commission on that. They actually, Sarah Hannah Stresta, our assembly person, had a rate case hearing in this room, like a public hearing for people to voice their opinions, and that's what kind of really lit me on fire to go after them. And we are the only town, I believe, in the entire Central Hudson District, billing district, that has challenged them. I think Dutchess County and ourselves and one or two other entities that are government entities. Police Department, let me go over that real quick. Olive has a part-time police department, for those that don't know. We have 11 officers. We oversee we have a police commission that oversees the operation, budget, and policy of the police department. The police commission also handles any complaints from the public or within the department. They are repeatedly brought, in our policy in the town to engage in what we call community engagement, community policing. Get out of the cars, interact with the public, get to know people, get to know who's who. And I know way back when there was a felony in town, and the state police were investigating, and the town of Olive Police were able to identify the perpetrator because of knowing their community. So those things work, It sounds like a lot of gobbledygook, but it's not. It really does work. And we always ask them to get out. We do have, we had a police task force a few years ago to examine the policies and procedures. And we do have like outreach with, on Olive Day, they come out, they meet with kids and things and do a bike helmet program. And they also occasionally do a coffee with a cop program where we go to a local business and the police are there. Parents bring their kids, they show them the cars, they get to know them, and to create a better relationship with the police department within the community. The Olive Police Department responded to 329 calls in January of 2023 alone. Okay, just to give you a sense of how busy they are. Some of them are alarms, false alarms, some are welfare checks, some are assisting the Olive First Aid, and residential alarms, property checks, traffic violations, including DWIs, and criminal investigations.
2023 or 24?
That was 1 month, January 2023, 329
That was a year ago.
calls. No, I made
So that's
a
true.
typo
This is
too, 2024. Thank you. The Olive Fire Department and Olive First Aid, both organizations are nonprofits. The town contracts with to provide safe services for the town. They respond to several hundred calls a year. The Olive Fire Department is totally volunteer. It's a fire protection district we have, which is kind of a different type of district than a lot of towns. And is known as one of the best fire departments in the county. And it's kind of known because they are really well organized and they have one of the highest memberships. Our little town of Olive has 78 volunteer members in the fire department. And they responded to 240 calls in 2023, and that year was down. Last year was down. The prior year was almost a call a day of a volunteer department. So I also, you can make a donation. There's a pamphlet over there with a donation you can make.
The barbecue is Sunday.
And the barbecue is Sunday at Brooks Barbecue. You have to call and make a reservation, I think, for it.
I
The
will.
signs are all over the place.
Yep.
Olive First Aid provides paid basic life support. We don't pay them a lot, but they are 24 hours on call. So I remember Sylvia and I, Sylvia wanted to do this and I supported her when I was on the town board because I came in one day, it was a hot summer day, it was 100 degrees out. You hear the call on the police radio. Elderly woman down at the aerator at the reservoir. First call, Olive First Aid. We were volunteer at the time. It was really hard to get volunteers because the training is so difficult that you have to go through. You have to pay money to volunteer. And second call, now they wait 10 minutes between calls. Third call, no response. The fourth time they come on, we're sending Mobile Life from Kingston. So just the thought of an elderly person lying on the ground in 100-degree weather in need of help and having to wait for first aid for potentially an hour was like horrible to us. And so we decided to make it 24 hours, and they had 430 calls in 2023. So again, I ask you, give them a donation. We do budget them, but they're always looking for money. They get by on pennies, and they staff it. And we're one of the models in the county. Everyone else is talking about first aid in the county, about doing a countywide first aid, and we have a success program here that other towns look at it and try to model after. I did a handout for Civic Ready for the town emergency alert system. You can sign up for that and receive alerts. It tells you what type of alerts you want to sign up for. You can have it alerted by any format that you want. You can choose, or all of them. But I will tell you this, we've had it almost 2 years now. We've done one alert. And I say that because it's an emergency system. It's not a system to tell you a storm's coming. It's not, we'll have these weather apps. It's not a system to tell you the utility's down. We have a Central Hudson app that's available that you can find all that stuff. It's really for when things really get dire that we would use this. We now are starting to, I was talking to the recreation director today, Gene Sorbolini, and we're gonna try to expand it into notifying parents for the day camp, the summer camp, if there's a rain delay or a rain closure or early dismissal because of weather. Once the lightning starts, we want day camp to end. So we think that the alert system would be a great way to get parents to come and pick up their kids. Assessment. We're looking into, we haven't done this year. I was hoping to get it done this year. We did not. But we're going to be talking soon about raising the income threshold for senior citizens assessment reductions for those that qualify. And we are also working with the assessor in evaluating the New York City Reservoir and Land Assessment. And that's a big issue for our town that we need to always stay on, and it's a really good time to do it now. And it's a good time to do it now. This is my segue into the next one. Because of the New York City Century project that's coming up, the Ashokan Century project. It is a $1.2 billion project to improve the infrastructure in and around the Ashokan Reservoir. It'll include new gate valves in the system, in the DEP facilities. It'll remove of the old buildings at the Olive Bridge campus by the aerator, and the construction of new facilities on that campus. and a new bridge over the reservoir at the dividing weir, a removal of the existing bridge, the repaving of 28A from Boyceville to Olive Bridge, with increased shoulders width and additional parking pull-off areas, all that we have been negotiating with them for the last year to get. Also, I wanted to just, I didn't bring my thing. It's one of the handouts, I believe. The New York City DEP Esopus Bridge Project, 28A and 28. I was at the meeting today. That is, the completion date for that is November 2025. But that includes the removal of the bridge. So they told me that, you know, they hate to give dates because anything can change, but they're looking at the bridge being open in the spring of 2025. The S-turn that they're working on in 28A to be straightened out and on in the spring of this year, in a few months. They hope to be able to do that. And the railroad bridge will be open as well in the summer this year, I believe. That's it. I think that's it. I'm not gonna be able to talk tomorrow, so. I said I'd take questions, maybe I'll just take a question. No, I'll take questions. All right. Yeah, Penny.
About the sewage plant. What's going on with that?
It is a long process. You're talking about in Shokan?
Yeah.
It's a long process. It is, where we're at now is we have 60% design drawings for the map area. We don't have design drawings for the sewer plant itself, nor do we have it for the Boyceville plant that will be turned into a pump station to pump it to Shokan. But we do have a lot of the other in-ground design to 60%. 60%, when people talk about design, I'm like, you got a lot more to go. It's actually pretty substantial. Like 60 to 90 and 100 is not, it's more details than anything else. And all of these things in these plans always have to be approved by DEP and DEC, and that can take forever. In addition, we have 145 easements, and we had probably 6 months ago, 70 people who didn't even respond to the easements, and we have about 30 more to go, and that's something that we're working on.
So with the pumping stations, how does that work with the property owners?
The pumping
If they
station,
have not signed off on easements?
you're talking about a pumping station on your property.
Well, a pumping station through, my property is in line with the pumping station.
What I would suggest on that is you talk to Nick Warner
Oh, I have.
and work it out with him.
I get no results. He just says he'll get back to me.
Okay.
But now,
I can call him and we can talk to him about it.
okay, good.
Okay.
Because,
I can't talk too many details of things I don't have a map in front of me or know much. Any other questions? Yes, Deb,
Hi, how are you?
how you doing?
Good, so, it's come around again, in our area to, encourage people who are farming to, be part of the agricultural inclusion right to farm.
Mhm.
Some years ago, it was being run by, a county member that's been removed some time ago.
Uh-huh.
But, I just wanted to know what support you felt that you could, or in being not in favor of smaller parcels that are established farms. Olive Bridge in particular has long been an agricultural community.
Right,
It is changing, since COVID, a lot of building, a lot of, short-term rental issues. But, in my case in particular, as you know, we've run, a farm on only 3 acres for 30 years.
right.
So we would like to know if we have an opportunity, again, to be considered with less property for that agricultural, right to farm.
I'd have to look at that program and the details of it. I remember vaguely when it first came up the first time. And one of the issues is that if you get into the inclusion, then you're not subject to the property offsets, I believe, for storing agricultural waste. So if it's a dense area it's something the town looks at and says, well, we don't want them putting their manure next to their neighbors. So it is an individual basis, we can look at that again.
Thank you.
Maybe, you know, maybe we can work out something where, a more of a plan.
Well, manure's
yeah.
there anyway.
But if it's not within so many feet of the neighbor's property
No,
or
no.
the stream and all that,
Mhm.
okay? Linda?
I was wondering if there's any status or update on the stream management for Butternut Creek on Red Maple Road.
On Red Maple, no. And because they looked at that, they did the engineering on it, and some of the property owners had to agree to, you know, use part of their property to make, you know, a mitigation on that, and they weren't open to that. So right now, it's kind of on hold. I'm looking at, I'm in very early discussions with the Shokin Watershed Stream Management to maybe increase the area of our local flood analysis, but that's a long process. We look at it and we say we want to expand the local flood analysis outside of the hamlets. We have to get a committee, we have to identify areas, it has to get, a document has to get made, and we have to have an engineering study. That's a year at least. And, but even that property is really difficult because if the neighbors don't want to participate in it.
Also, are they gonna be repairing the walls on the side of the road? There's stone walls that are
On
falling
Red Maple?
down on Red Maple, and there's a big hole in the road.
So I'll talk to Brian about that, yeah. Let me,
I
make
know
a note of
they
it.
put cones out, but I was just wondering if.
Usually if they put the cones, it means they're gonna do it, but.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole
Yes, sir.
watershed there.
Wait a minute, I have another question that came before you.
I'm sorry, one of the speakers mentioned short-term rentals. I just wanted to ask what the status of compliance with the town's decisions about that has been.
We have one property that already paid a fine for operation and ceased operation. We have another property we just got a violation to. It is a challenging thing for a town of our size and enforcement, but I've had this conversation with the county executive, and based on some of that conversation and other conversations he's had with other town members, they are actually gonna provide us with a dashboard for the town that has more accurate information on it, so that we can pursue people who are unpermitted more than they are now. So it's on our radar for sure. Yes. Thank you.
Hi, first let me just, kudos on the summer youth program,
Right.
so fabulous. And I love the idea of the alert system telling us about cancellation, so thank you for doing that.
We're still working on it. We have to get them to return our call first.
I was interested in where I could get more information, and if you could repeat the dollar amount on the Ashokan Century project?
The Century project, like all these projects, they come up with a budget and then they don't do it for 10 years. It's a 10-year project. Is currently $1.2 billion.
And is the town a part of that at all?
The town is a part of that in that they have been willing to engage with us on what the town wants. I've been pestering them about it, and they've been better than they have been in the past in having that conversation. And their attitude used to be they would just build it, and we'd find out afterwards. Now we're trying to, they're willing, and actually did the outreach to us to say, we want to engage with you early on and get your input first, so you're not all yelling at us in 2 years from now.
Who's the they? They being the.
DEP. DEP,
Okay,
yep.
thank you.
Yep, so that's another, behemoth operation. They have a $12 billion operating budget, annual operating budget. And they, so their design team is like in Yonkers, and they have to go to an architectural team that's in the city that doesn't even know what they're doing, Their first plan, I'll give you an idea of 2 conversations I had with them over the last 2 years. The first one was when they first introduced the plan, they were gonna have a public, display of the new bridge over the reservoir. I was gonna be out of town, so I asked, Adam Bosch was the DEP liaison at that time. And I said to Adam, I can't be there, but let me ask you one basic question, because I've been advocating for this for 5 years. Will there be a bike path or a bike lane and a walkway on the bridge? And he said, yes. I said, well, that's great, because I've been putting that, out there. And then I said, let me just, one other question. What side of the bridge are you putting on? And he goes, oh, let me look. the lower basin side. And I said, you know, everyone goes on the upper basin side to take the picture of the mountains. Oh, I said, yeah, that's the money shot. That's the money shot. And so they changed the design for that. That, I do know that the preliminary discussions on that is to connect that walkway on that bridge to the walkway promenade on the Ashokian and to continue it onto the rail trail. And the idea being, and I support that because it's kind of like, I think we're in a very kind of like precarious position on what we advocate in the town for public recreation, because we all want to get out and do things, but we don't want to make it, if you build it, they'll come and bring more people in, because we're pretty overwhelmed as it is. So the idea of that, of spreading out parking areas and spreading out access, kind of makes less singular areas that people go to, hopefully. And so, yes, so I look at every one of those projects like that very carefully about what it's gonna mean to the town. Yes.
Jim over there.
Wait, we got one here. Did you have a question? Yes.
Well, dovetailing on what Linda was asking about, so the Butternut Creek watershed seems to be flooding more in general. I'm getting water in my house that I haven't gotten for years after investing thousands of dollars to prevent it.
Yeah.
So it appears to me that development uphill from me must be contributing to that, and that there's inadequate planning for drainage from those homes. And there's probably too many homes or too much expansion of homes, and that's only gonna get worse if development is allowed up there, and if we continue with climate disruption, having,
Right.
wetter weather.
So on that particular creek, we were very close to getting funding on the other bridge on Bostock, which could, I don't know, is that upstream or downstream from there?
Downstream.
That's downstream. So that might help alleviate it in getting the water out of there faster or more. I don't know.
This
I'm
is
not a hydrologist.
Yeah, it's not just the creek that's causing the flooding. The
Right.
flooding I'm experiencing is coming from underneath the ground and into my basement.
Right.
And that's a relatively new phenomenon, and I'm just imagining it's related to more development uphill.
You might be right, you might not be. It's really hard to assess that stuff. We have it all over town, and we are, I had this meeting the other day with the Ashokian people about flood mitigation and stormwater. And we were talking about how, and this wasn't on their radar. I said, there's also public education. Like, we do all these projects with culverts and things and construction and grants, but there's also a public education thing. And it happened right here in the library, where there's a private road that goes up here, and a new house was built. And everyone thought that the new house caused flooding down here. And on Christmas Eve last year, I believe it was, we got a big thaw, right, on the day before Christmas Eve or something like that. And all of the snow melt came down, and it started melting, and the road out here had about 4 inches of water continuously running across it, and about 6 inches of gravel and sand, all across 28A. And it was the temperature was supposed to drop to 15 degrees that night. So we knew there was gonna be a huge public safety issue here. So on the basis of that it was a public safety issue, Brian and I came back and we walked the property with Chrissy, the former director, and we found that it was everybody's problem. It wasn't one singular problem. It wasn't the house back there. In fact, the house back there had proper drainage and drained this creek on the other side of the library here. The problem was people had drainage dishes that were 20, 30 years old and never cleaned them out. And they had culverts that were filled with sand. And I mean, it does take everyone has to take a part and responsibility to doing their part in protecting their property and their neighbors. And when you get down to that legally, there is some legal basis for that and some against it. I mean, we do live in a watershed town with a reservoir and a 3,000-foot mountain and a 2,000-foot mountain on either side where the water goes to. It's inevitable you're gonna get water. This also happens to be, the last year or two, like the wettest seasons I've ever seen here in 40 years. So I hear what you're saying, but it's a lot of things. It's never one in my experience so far. Somebody had a question over here. Yes, Wendy.
I wonder if anything is going on in terms of developing housing for seniors and also senior transportation.
Especially looking around the room and looking in the mirror.
We're addressing
You're
it.
talking to me?
Jimmy, aren't we gonna look at that in March
So,
meeting of the
Yes.
comprehensive
In,
plan?
is it March?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I think March 28th. That is in the comprehensive plan committee, that's one on the agenda, March 28th. The housing issue is, the next part of the zoning for major subdivisions is to look and see if we can look at subdivisions being required to have a housing element, an affordable housing element in a subdivision for approval. So if somebody's, let's just take a look at what we've had in the last year or so. I would say almost every new housing permit in the town of Olive has been for over $1 million, okay? And when you start saying that this is the land that we're gonna develop and we're gonna keep bringing in $1 million homes, we're having a hard time getting people on committees, we're having a hard time having low-paid jobs, people are curtailing their hours in stores, people are closing down because they can't get helpers. So we understand there's a housing need, and that might be one of the things. A lot of times, we're not looking so much as senior anymore, it's inclusive, because if you find that you have seniors and younger people and families, they help each other, and that's better sometimes than having all the seniors in one place, although it might be better when the first aid has to go to get the senior, I don't know. But, there is, it is on our radar, but not specifically to seniors at this point.
And what about transportation?
Transportation, Ulster County has a transportation system that can come out and bring people to places. I don't have the details of it, but it is on the county website. You can call and they can bring you to a shopping area and then bring you back in a small van. You have to make an appointment. So that stuff's out there in the county, and I would suggest you look on their website and see what that is. Next. Wait, you went already. Cynthia.
Yes, I have is there any way we can save the existing Olive Fire Station?
No.
There was a flood.
No.
It looks fine, and we could use it for indoor farmers markets
No.
and all kinds of stuff.
Okay?
It has to come down.
The deed does not allow it.
Okay, the
Only
deed
the
is not
fire
allowed,
is.
and the entire idea of the buyout program is to remove the buildings, that's the first thing, it's to create a floodplain. Okay? Any other questions?
One more.
Yes.
The pump storage, how dead is that?
Pump storage is very dead,
Yes.
yes,
For how
very
long?
dead. In my opinion, forever, I don't think we'll see them back here, that was a remarkable series of events. And we were very lucky to have Wendy and her organization and a lot of town citizens opposing it. And I was very fortunate to have a lot of government agencies involved in it. And I had to do a little bit of a runaround with DEP to get them to finally send a letter. And
But
that
it
was
was
kind of.
handled pretty swiftly, I think.
What's that?
It was handled pretty swiftly, I think.
I came into the office one day and there's a thing on my desk and it was from Jim Quigley in the town of Ulster, and it's like, do you know about this? And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, it was really. Anything else?
I don't have a question, I have a comment.
Yeah.
You're gonna think I'm a shill in here, but, listening to what has been accomplished, I'm blown away by the accomplishments of what you and the board have pulled off in the last few years.
The board too, it really is. And the committees who work with
These
us.
committees that you've appointed, it's really, thank you, everybody, for your hard work. And it's really a sign of great leadership when you delegate this kind and get this kind of input. This comprehensive plan, getting the input, what did you have, a 30% return rate on the survey that you put
No.
out? Wasn't it?
It was 15, but 15 is considered really good in a survey.
Oh, that's so, well, the 15's good, 30's
15's
better. Anyway, I'm knocked out by it, and I
Thank you,
think just
thank
keep
you.
participating.
We are
Participation
looking-
is the key to harmony, everybody. Keep showing up at these meetings.
For anyone who's willing to do like a very, very small job in the town, we do have an appointment ready for the Board of Assessment Review. That when people want to challenge their assessment, they come to a group of citizens who are appointed to look at it and hear their case and the assessor's case.
There's a guy right over there, it'd be great at it.
It's 1 day, you have to get some training for it, and you get paid. I don't wanna say the wrong thing, I think it's 20 an hour, but I'm not positive. Yes,
I'm sorry, I've never seen figures like these that you distributed about the differences in town tax bill
Yes.
comparison. I'm kind of shocked. How does Marbletown get away with being so cheap compared to all of us?
I don't know, I wondered the same thing. I did wonder the same thing, but it's hard, town budget, it's always kind of like a number data, like from numbers like that, is always a bit of a chimera because every town has different things going on. You might have in that year, you might have bonded something that you're paying, 2% of your budget on every year, and then it goes away, and suddenly your taxes go way down. So it's really hard to really get a handle on a decisive answer like that. Sorry. Deb?
I wanted to say what Kate said, except how impressed you are to me by even second guessing and questioning and scrutinizing something as simple as where the walkway went. Because it shows how much you care about the
Well,
community.
thank you. Hey,
And
it's
how
not,
qualified you are to represent us.
I appreciate that, and I do appreciate that. Well, I have to tell you, part of it's my cynicism in knowing how they develop things at DEP, and how you have to stay on, like, it really is inspired by their inequity, or inability to do things properly. Christina?
Ditto what all these people have said, and our kudos.
Thank you.
Okay, we have so many great things going on. How do we hear about them? How do I find out about the concert? Because I don't do Facebook, is that my bad?
So,
I mean, is there any money to maybe do, improve communication? Does the
So we do-
website I find that is, you can't update it all the time because.
so, yeah, and it's always a problem because there's so many things that need to be updated. And we do this with our existing staff. If you know the town, we operate on a skeletal staff, we really do. We pay a stipend for somebody to do work outside of their regular job, and it's difficult. And in addition, people have time off, they have babies, they have sickness, COVID was around, so it's really hard to stay on top of. But we do, the one thing when things need to get out quick and broad, we do use the Facebook platform to do that. And that's a platform that we have only for information. It's not a public dialogue. I tell people that we have town board meetings, and I operate my town board meetings in a very quick and fastidious manner because I like to get the business of the town completed in a meeting. Town board meetings, in my opinion, are not public discussion meetings. We'll be there for 5 hours with 3 people with opinions. So what we do is we have 30 days between meetings, all of our phone numbers, all of our emails, my office is open, you can all come in and talk then. I'll talk to you for hours. You can tell now I can talk for hours. And, that's my perspective on it. If I were to devote more time to trying to get that out, I'd be losing things on other things. I just don't have the staff. So our building department is overwhelmed, and the assessor helps the building department as well in short-term rentals.
I just think, well, thank you for that. I just think there's so much valuable information.
That's why we do this.
It's, right, but I think on a more regular, so that we can find out about the things that are happening. I mean, unless I'm missing some, does everybody have some other online situation where they find out what's happening in the town?
No, I mean, it's, maybe it's a challenge.
Asking is,
Yeah.
how do people feel about maybe putting some money towards improved communications? I totally believe in the board meetings, I love going to the board meetings, but, there's also just some of these events, like how the library sends out, like, this is what's happening.
I'll tell you now, the band event was put up on posters around town, the Facebook page, the website.
Be under a rock.
I mean, you do what you can do. What's that?
There's notices are all at the transfer station.
You notice at the transfer stations, all the kids were given handouts at the camp. You do what you can do, we're here to provide the service. Democracy is participatory,
Yeah, no kidding.
okay?
Anybody that's good at it, that we could have a communications volunteer. I'm not even kidding, we just need more volunteers.
Yeah.
Somebody that's really great at marketing or has a particular skill with web, or, we need a newspaper, we need Carol and Wanda.
She's here somewhere, where is she?
And, no, I mean, since the Olive Press is gone, you know, my name isn't in the paper like it used to be. Nobody writes about me, and everybody says, who are you?
All right, any other questions? We can all get together and chat later. Yes.
Jim, your comprehensive plan, will there be any consideration given to food insecurity?
It is something on our radar, because the Boyceville Market is in the floodplain. And, you know, I don't know their particular situation that well, but, you know, if they get flooded again, I don't know if they would stay.
You mean the reservoir food pantry that's?
No, I'm talking about, well, they too are in the floodplain. I'm talking about the Boyceville Market itself. You know, imagine if that were to go away. We've made offers to them to relocate, things like that. They have taken that upon themselves. It's a challenge, you know? Yes, it is something that should be in the comprehensive plan, Kate.
No,
whatever
I
that-
already have it down. We talked to the kids at Columbia Architectural School a couple weeks ago. Brilliant bunch of people, you cannot believe. And their project, we're their project. And it used to be, they were gonna come and design community spaces for us. Then they found out about this wonderful library, and they pivoted a little bit, and I wasn't able to stay very long, so Jim could tell you about it. But before I left, I said, not only do we need, you know, sort of communal housing near a highway and clustered or whatever, but we do need an indoor swimming pool. But I was not kidding when I talked about hydroponic vegetables or like a greenhouse. I mean, we basically live in a food desert. I mean, thank God for Primo down there, we can go get a little mozzarella once in a while. There's no vegetables here except for Romanos, thank God for Deb's eggs and Jay's tomatoes when he feels like growing them, you know. But, I mean, I'm not even kidding when we talk about it. So that's gonna be part, to me, it's part of the housing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
coupled
also,
with that.
those small, you know, not Primos, but I mean, the farms are seasonal, so we always deal with that.
But it could
Yeah,
be
no,
a-
it's an issue.
But it could be a 3-season or 4-season greenhouse. They do it in Ireland, they have woofers come in and tend it. I mean, it could be run a lot of different ways, and there's European models that we could look at. We just need more people to put in some thinking around it.
We do have a food pantry that operates once a week that
In
serves-
Boyceville.
Yeah.
There's
about-
also a food closet in the church in
Olive
Olive
Branch.
Branch.
Well, this serves about 100 families
Yes.
a week, and it's partially out of doors.
I understand
And
that.
it doesn't have suitable.
I've had discussions with them about relocating and offering them things, but, you know, I can only do what the organizations bring to me. I can't go and organize a food bank. I don't have the resources for that. They're nonprofits, so there's a little bit of difference between what they do and I do. I'm certainly willing to work with them. I've had conversations, but they never take the next step, in my experience. So, you know, if they want to get together and do stuff, let's do it, but I can't go organize that. I don't have time.
No.
Yes,
I just want to say that part of the mission of the Master Gardeners of Ulster County, you know, at the co-op, is to work on food insecurity. So if you want free help, you need to fill out a project application and say, we want Master Gardeners to come work on this problem, and here's what, you know, kind of help you need. And it's free. And all the Master Gardeners are volunteers. We have now like 60 some odd in the county, and we have a new class going through. We'll be close to 85. So fill out an application. I think we sent the town board a letter that said, here's what we do, here's what we can offer you, and no one ever like got back to us.
Oh, they're juggling 8 million things.
Yeah. It's free help, it's free help.
Our discussion at the Boyceville too, planning would be, you know, the use of those properties, you could have a seasonal garden there, a community garden. But, you know, that's something that people need to get together and organize, you know. We'd support it.
So you wanna do a free food forest, lots of cities have done them, they feed thousands of people, I mean.
Let's give me a card at the end of it.
Any other questions?
We don't have cards.
Allison? Sorry.
What am I
Keith.
gonna ask?
Huh?
Just tell me what I'm gonna ask.
No, you're gonna ask.
I know what she's gonna ask.
Why? Is there any way that the meetings could be recorded and that put on the website so that way, like Shandaken does it, and you can go on their YouTube and you can pick a subject, a date, a time, a meeting, and watch every single thing that happened. And I know when you do it on the TV, it doesn't come out so good, but they have a whole website, and I talked to Marbletown said they report it through Facebook and they put it on Facebook, and I looked at Hurley does, like, they have an amazing recording, and can't we, I mean, we had $22,000 in interest, which if anybody wants kudos, $22,000 in interest, cause he messed around with, he got it for us.
Let me talk about the interest, okay? When I first came on the town board, the economy wasn't so great.
Yeah.
You know, Sylvia used to make a joke at town board meetings, well, the interest this month was, $24, we can buy a pizza maybe. You know, that was her joke, and it was ongoing, and the interest rates on our investments were very low. Since then, with COVID kind of messing around with markets, you can go in and you can get 4 or 5% interest where we were getting 0.01 5 years ago. And to this day, we get over $20,000 per month interest.
Way to go.
But that interest, let me make a point, that interest isn't money you can spend. We have a budget, we just don't spend money when we get interest. We have, a lot of that is in reserve funds that are earmarked specifically for specific projects. So it's, that's not the way that the budget works in the town. The other thing about, let me make my stand on public meetings. We live in a generation now where I can go online and talk to somebody and I don't even know if it's a real person,
That's right.
okay? I don't have an interest with what I'm doing with all this stuff. I was in television, I produced television for 20 years. I don't have an interest in producing something for that kind of medium. I don't. Any person that wants to come here and record the meeting and put it on YouTube, they're welcome to do it. I'm not putting my time into it. It's a participatory process. Come to the meetings. I go on Zooms all the time and I see the loss in a Zoom meeting. I see how the people that have the biggest mouth get heard the most. In a public meeting, you can see the crowd, work the crowd, and see who needs to talk, who wants to talk, and might be a little shy. I don't like recording the meetings, I don't like putting them out there. I'll give you another example. When we had COVID, we had the meetings on Zoom, okay? Unless it was a big issue like short-term rental, where we had a lot of people, a few dozen, I say, a lot. We never had more than 10 people on those meetings for 2 years. So why am I gonna go through all this effort to do this and have somebody do it and then put it somewhere and have somebody archive it, and then when somebody asks me about it, I have to go and review it. When we had the planning board doing it, I had somebody call me up who has an issue before the planning board, and they said to me, minute 352 on March 16th, I didn't say that. You altered the tape. I swear to God. Now, I have to take from my day of doing this stuff to save your assessments and save you, and look at millions of dollars of grants I got, to go look at a stupid video and tell the person, no, you're wrong, or have someone else come in to verify what I'm saying so they don't think I'm lying. I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to spend my time. I didn't run for that. We didn't have it when I ran for it, and I'll never do it. You want to get the board's support to do it? Fine, but I won't support it ever. Because it's not, I don't think it's a valuable asset of my time. I really don't.
That would be a no.
And we've had this discussion many times at meetings, Allison, with you. And the town board voted 100%. Well, David, I'm sure. No, we don't want to do that. We don't want to spend our time doing it.
What if you just took, like you used to audio record it, but then you decided not to? So if you just audio record it.
We do town board minutes. Again, the board is to get the business of the town done. We want to do the town's business at board meeting. Okay? That's recorded, the actions are recorded as required by law in the meeting minutes by the town clerk. There is no other requirement for us. So that's why I won't do it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Can I say one thing? Now, I noticed in some of the notes that Allison had made before, they mentioned something about the eminent domain thing with the sewage product. Would that ever become an issue?
It depends on the legalities of that situation. I can't address that, but I can tell you that it's always a choice.
But that is a possibility?
You'd have to ask the lawyer. I can't answer that. I think it is a possibility, but I can't exactly answer what you're talking about. You'd have to get a lawyer. Yes?
Sort of a funny subject, but I totally respect and understand how completely I wouldn't say overworked, but how completely full your schedule is, as well as the people who work for the town. Has there been any thought to, dare I say, raising taxes in order to
Oh,
hire
God.
more staff to
Please.
do some of these jobs that you're doing? Or
So-
putting out a referendum to see whether people.
So in the budget, we review that every year.
Yeah.
You know, the departments come to the town board with their budgets, and we put them in a budget, and we discuss it. So this year, we are gonna hire a part-time worker in the building department to help the building department out,
Right.
because it's a mess. And I don't mean it's a mess, it's getting the job done, but there's a lot of records sitting around, boxes that need to be put away. We need additional clerical help. So we will be hiring somebody for that soon. In fact, I was working on the job description
I'm
today.
hearing a lot of good ideas about services and functions that people seem to want. And I'm also hearing that townspeople don't necessarily have the time available to donate, you know, to the town. Isn't there I mean, shouldn't we maybe do some sort of a referendum with, you know, to say, are you willing to spend a little more to get, you know, X, Y, and Z services and those kinds of.
Because that would, to have it as a public discussion for what is really a department head and board decision, would mean that you'd get 100 ideas that you'd have to assess every year. So I don't think, again, you know, you elected us to do the job in the town, and we do what we're elected to do. If you feel that you're really strongly about having someone spending their time recording meetings and putting up there on Facebook and responding to inquiries, then you can run for the town board. You know, you can't listen, it's great to have these meetings, and I love the back and forth, but you can't spend your time addressing in a full way everyone's concern. We would be doing that all the time. We wouldn't be getting anything done. I hate to say it, but that's the reality of it. Yes?
Is there a public list of all the town committees that?
Yes, yeah.
There's a list there of many of them.
And it's on the website.
How's that?
It's on the website.
Can that be
And
online?
it's on the
It's
website?
on the website.
It's on the website.
Okay, cause I have free time.
There you go. All right. You wanna be on the board of assessment review? We'll get paid $20 an hour for
I
that.
have 3 adult children who are all grown. I'm getting bored.
All right. All right, there we go. One volunteer at a time. Any other questions? It's getting late. We can talk informally after this, once I get off the recording. Thank you, Jim. Thank you.